And we're live. Hey, Suchitra. Hey, Madhuri. This is Bhakti Shringarpure of Radical Books Collective. And you're Suchitra and you're Madhuri. And we see some folks joining. Thanks, everyone. Get in here. We're going to wait a couple of minutes. We had some glitches and echoing, but now it seems to be moving along, right?
Yeah, it seems to be moving along.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I think we're here now. So apologies for the technical glitches.
Yeah. Yeah. So
we are blaming it on the Mercury retrograde. Is there a Mercury retrograde?
there is. Madhuri knows the most about astrology.
I think
So
today
tell
it's
us.
called retrograde.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Not yet.
Not yet. Thank you. Our resident astrologer has spoken. Okay. Well, welcome. It's not you, it's the media. I don't know how many people knew that the three of us had a 25 episode run of what we thought was a pretty good podcast that came out of a place of immense despair. It came out of a place of seeing just how badly the media was covering Palestine. And when we talk about media, of course, we're talking about mainstream liberal media. We're not talking about Fox. We're not talking about super conservative stuff. It's understood that those are bad, but we're talking about what are seen as reputed legacy media and the kind of ideological issues we have with that. So we did 25 episodes, and when we took a break, and we were pretty much focused on Palestine, but also a lot of Trump and elections and critiquing Kamala Harris. People didn't like that, but we had to do it. And we see in retrospect, we were pretty right. And now we are coming back in what I would say is yet another extremely saturated media moment. And we don't feel patient enough to sit there and be like, let's get the editor to edit our podcast and things like that. So we're testing out this live, and let's hope this works. So a lot has happened. There is just so much news. In general, there is an obsession with Trump, of course, in mainstream news, European news, UK news. What I know, which is generally the Anglo or some French sphere of news, there's a Trump obsession, a lot of reporting on Trump. And then it has switched now in the last month or so with ICE, I would say. And then now the last week has been insane with the 3 million documents released of the Epstein files, all horrifying, all shocking, a rapist, a con man, just a disgusting person overall. And it's been like harrowing. And I think one of the things we thought when all this is going on, and the reason we decided to get our band back together, is because there is a feeling that the media is now doing such a good job reporting on ICE, reporting on Epstein. Here we are pulling all the stuff. But of course, the three of us who are very keenly looking at this stuff, there's a big split, of course. There's the kind of legacy media and what they're saying. And yes, they're reporting on ICE and Epstein and all that. And then there is the lefty progressive news outlets that we all follow, Democracy Now!, Zeteo, Dropsite, Al Jazeera, that are certainly reporting on these things, but reminding us over and over again that we have forgotten about Palestine. The genocide is ongoing. It may have slowed down. It's not even that slow. Things are really, really bad. And what this reporting on ICE and reporting on Epstein allows everyone to do is, kind of strategically forget about Palestine. And then, of course, we have issues with how they're reporting ICE and Epstein too, So let's start with that. What have you all been thinking? I mean, I've blabbed a lot now, but
No, that was a great introduction. And I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us for our first very guerrilla live stream. It's lovely to see everyone. So, I know Suchitra had this wonderful Substack that I will let her recount, but what I wanted to say was I'm almost having a flashback to 2019, 2020, when I see the sort of salacious Epstein reporting, it's so much reminding me of that like salivating that everybody had almost for when they were reporting about Trump. So, Epstein is good for media business. Like everyone is over reporting, everyone has the eyeballs. Literally every one of these legacy media spots has an Epstein files page where they are keeping you constantly informed. And it's like catnip. I mean, I don't mean to say that people who are engaging with the reporting or reading about it aren't shocked and disgusted, but it is a version of what happened with Trump. And it is a version of how we have been seeing the genocide being live streamed. There's just this like bloodbath that we're all, being bathed in. And obviously, they chose very much not to report on the genocide. And this is Epstein is great for business. I don't know how many people who unsubscribed from the New York Times are now back there because they have all this access and they have the daily drops and they have, all the analysis, such as it is. But it seems to be like motivated by that same salaciousness, and that same lack of critique. And everybody critiqued the media back in 2021 or right after Trump got elected when, people said, this is why this was all this free ad revenue for Trump. There was all this publicity that the media was doing and nobody had a critical opinion. And I feel like that's exactly what is happening with Epstein. There is no critique of power. There's no critique really. It's just here's a bunch of really awful, salacious news that we have access and that we're kind of going to dump on you so you can come here and read it. I don't know. Do you feel the same way?
No, I think for me, this is more, it parallels more with the Me Too, right? With the Me Too,
Absolutely.
it was this moment where it felt almost pornographic, right? It was almost as if the information that was being shared was shared not to hold these men accountable, but to get those as you know, that's the word is salacious, but even salacious is like it's too disgusting a feeling for even salacious to explain what it is. And I think
Mhm.
Madhuri is absolutely right. Is that we are being given all of these details, but really, did we not know that Bill Gates was who he was? Did we not know that all these men were who they were? For me, this is not new information. Maybe the new information that I have is that these men cannot conjugate a sentence, like they cannot. But really, what we see is that we no longer center the survivors of these monstrous men, right?
Yeah.
Just as Me Too happened, it was called a reckoning. But what happened to all of them? They were briefly cancelled. There were entire op-eds about how this cancel culture is going to cost us. And all these men and women who enabled this are back. And you're going to
Mhm.
see the same thing with Epstein, is that all of these men and women have been doing this. For instance, Larry Summer, who for all purposes was asking Epstein for advice on how to get women, was back at Harvard teaching. He had to
Yeah.
step back because it was uncomfortable for him. He stepped back because it was uncomfortable for him. And yet there has been no protests at Harvard, right? You have so many professors. There's another Yale professor who's writing emails to Epstein describing one of his female students. How are we sending our children? And again, the point is that we are not centering the survivors. We are not centering the structures that enable people like Epstein and will keep enabling people like Epstein. Like 5, 6, 7, a decade from now, there'll be another Epstein and we're going to have the exact same damn conversation. And there is no accountability. I don't want to use the word justice, but there is no accountability. And with all of this, it's our Colosseum. For me, the Epstein files is our Colosseum. They've thrown us into this thing. We are all
Exactly.
reporting, we're all talking, but the institutions
Yeah.
of power are protected. Epstein is
Absolutely.
dead, but the people in the files are protected. Bill Gates
Yeah.
is walking around. Yeah.
I think the difference to me from the Me Too to now is that when Me Too broke, when everybody went intensely viral with their personal experiences on social media, and then the media started to cover it. Yes, I didn't think that they're doing a great job, but they were covering it. And even if the process, say, for someone like Harvey Weinstein, was slowed down in the legal setting, the media was taking everybody to trial, at least for a while. And what I feel now is that the media has not are not flogging enough. Like, I feel that there is a space, especially within powerful legacy media. If they want, they can ensure a different course of accountability, ensure a different course of even justice, if you want to use the word. But I don't see any of that happening. Yes, some of it is salacious. Every single big newspaper has a little, like,
Yeah,
a tab or a docket or
exactly.
something on the Epstein files, and they're putting out little bits and pieces and little bits and pieces. But of course, you have the typical stuff, the Israel ties. How many progressive media are saying they refuse to talk about the Epstein ties with Israel, or Robert Maxwell, his father-in-law, who was like, his funeral was attended by every single Israeli dignitary, and what that means. And let's be clear, like, what if Jeffrey Epstein was Arab? Or what if he was black? Would we talk about him the same way? I mean, the circuit of Jewish supremacy also within this is extraordinary. I was like, I have unsubscribed from the New York Times. I get like hives every time I go in there, but I was like, I have to see what they're doing. And one of the things I watched was the economic. How did he get so rich? And it was a video report, and it was like very flashy, great images, nice charts, and all that kind of stuff, but just will not touch this topic, will not touch the Israel topic. Was he a spy? Whatever. Like, of course, all these things are valid questions. I mean, this man is just like walking around. And yes, I think he does hold the fate of Palestine. He did hold the fate of Palestine in his hands in the way we think about it. So not making that connection is just egregious,
There's
I think
another
now they're
point.
trying to really. Sorry. No, I was saying that they're trying to push the Russia connection now, right? It's like,
Mm.
oh, how many times does Putin's name appear? And, again, we're back to that narrative. Like, it feels like it's almost anything to avoid the Israel narrative, to avoid the Israel ties. And I mean, like, the other thing that I was thinking about this whole, when you asked, like, what if Jeffrey Epstein were black or Jeffrey Epstein were Arab? He was a convicted sex offender in like 2018 or 2019. We have
2008.
so many. Oh,
2008.
okay, yeah,
What?
okay. So
2008.
Yeah.
all these years have passed, and everyone who's in the email, who we're all trying to, I think we're in this moment again where we're, some of us are killing our darlings and we're like, how could you? And it's such a betrayal. And it is really a betrayal because so many people we've seen, I guess, to your point about accountability, structural, questioning the structures that enable these people to really behave in these depraved ways. We have all killed a darling, had to kill a darling from the left to the right, across the board. And so many of them knew about Jeffrey Epstein's conviction. So it was not really even an open secret in the way Harvey Weinstein was an open secret and like nobody was really talking about it, but we all knew like this guy literally has been convicted. So how do that has kind of also escaped people's memories. It would never have been the same narrative if it was a black or a brown person who had been convicted and then these emails were released. And it really feels to me like the Russia story has just like everyone is talking about Russia. It's almost as if there is just no
Please.
Jewish supremacy. There's no Israeli connection. Yeah, it's like, I mean, and if you were an Israeli intelligence agency, who would you recruit?
Yeah.
Who is the person with all the ties and all the access to every single rich, powerful man in the world across the spectrum? It's this person, and it's
Yeah.
it's just been shocking. Sorry, Suchitra, I
I
cut you
know.
off.
And
No,
birds of a feather flock together. I don't even care, the Mossad or KGB, or it's just like,
Yeah,
this is all like the same pot in which they eat, same
yeah.
plate. Yeah.
No, I think Brianna Greyjoy had a tweet about this. And again, it was a tweet. It was mostly about the idea of Jewish supremacy, where it's
Mhm.
not about Israel. It's about all of the people in those emails communicating with Jeffrey Epstein, who are all Jewish, or even, and I think there was also this Obama administration spokesperson. All of them talking about Jewish supremacy in a way. There's one email about, oh, you're so many percentage Jewish. And no, Gentiles are better. We are better. This idea that they are better, that they, and
Yeah.
that pervades. And I spent 4 hours doom scrolling all of those emails yesterday, and I feel like my brain is like half, it doesn't function anymore. This
Yeah.
casual way, if this was white supremacy,
Yeah.
in, it would have at least some kind of public, at least acknowledgement. I wouldn't say reckoning, acknowledgement. If this was any other religion, the sheer amount of Jewish supremacy across institutions,
I
across,
know.
and these are not right wing folks, these are liberals
Yeah.
holding liberal institutions who genuinely believe the Jewish people are just better and they are the
Yeah.
God's chosen one. And this idea of Jewish supremacy, and again, now we have this idea of critique of the supremacy as being anti-Semitism when anti-Semitism is a real issue. And then I'm just like this conflation, which also makes it,
No.
people constantly tell me that it's hard to report on the Jewish supremacy angle because it's going to get called anti-Semitic and you're going to get cancelled.
Yeah.
So for me, the biggest concern is not just that, it is simply the fact that we do not have the not just the capacity, people will simply just not touch it.
I know. I know. Absolutely. And yeah, I think some of those tweets have been really good. Brianna Joy Gray, Sana Saeed, all the stuff from Mondo Weiss, really, really good stuff, But at the end of the day, while these are giants in their own way, they are not they're not the millions and millions of people who read that stuff or watch that and follow that stuff. So it's really quite depressing. For me, the other thing is also the obsession with celebrity is like coming out in a different way, and it's like taking up a lot of dead space almost, by which I mean like the New York Times did a full article on how Woody Allen tried to get his daughter into Bard College and used Epstein's help, who spoke to the president of Bard College, Leon Botstein. And I just wanted to do full disclosure, like Epstein also got me into Bard College. No, I'm kidding. But this is my this is this is where I did my undergrad, and of course I have some loving feelings towards this place. But it's also like,
okay, Bhakti, people are actually
what?
going to think Epstein got you into college, Bard College.
Okay, well, he did not, because I was just like a middle class person coming from India, so
And not even a Hindu supremacist, so nothing in common.
I know. I didn't even know Deepak Chopra, for example.
Yeah.
Who could have helped perhaps in this case. But no, I think that what struck me about that the fact that they did an article about this is that Woody Allen is the least of the problems at the moment at some level. Like, it's sort of like so low hanging. He's a celebrity, he's well known, it's well established that he also has his issues with women. So
And children.
they just going into like charted territory because he's a celeb. And of course I've also been upset at the Noam Chomsky thing, which there has been some glee from liberals who hate kind of leftists, and Marxists and stuff like that. There's been some glee, but in general, they're not able to unpack also what is the connection between academia, these kind of powerful academic figures, big writers, and then also these Epstein files and what it means for the structures of power. There's art, celebrity, academia, there's politics, there is just straight up rich socialites. And this inability to analyze or put it all together and look at an ecosystem, I think this is what upsets me the most. Yeah.
I agree with everything that you were saying, and it made me think when you talked about like this, the ecosystem, right? And I think it might be a decent segue for us, insofar as a decent segue is possible. But when we did the podcast, we had an episode called "The Media's War on Children," and we in that episode talked about how the media did or did not report the terrible way in which they were reporting on the children who were being blown to bits in Palestine. And this is kind of a version of that, right? Like, what is the common thread from little Liam being kidnapped and put in a detention center by ICE to Hind Rajab and all of the other children who have been murdered in Palestine, and to these young children who have been trafficked and abused on Epstein's island? Like, what is the connection? There is obviously a connection. And we continue to treat the drop of the Epstein files almost like it's the latest episode of Game of Thrones that's coming. Like, seriously, in terms of a zeitgeist moment, that is kind of what it feels like to me, where we're watching all this abuse and rape and we're just watching it. And what connects Liam with Hind, with the girls on this island? Nobody talks about that. Nobody understands. And there is not enough outrage at the machine. I mean, there's not enough outrage at all. Like, what there is, the common denominator is screaming at you. You know, it's looking you in the face and it is screaming at you. Supremacy, patriarchy, men, power, money. Like, it's all there. And yet, as children continue in our faces to be blown up, to be detained, and poor Liam is now sick in his detention center with no access to medication or something. And, everybody was shocked, and you had all these celebrities putting up pictures of, Liam saying, "Who have we become?" And everybody is, going to watch The Voice of Hind, and everybody's reading these emails about, little kids being referred to as pizza and trying to decode what that means. And what is the power structure that's holding all of this together and making it happen? And the fact that people and the media refuses to see the link in the abuse and death of these children is something that I cannot fathom, and I will never ever be able to forgive.
But I don't
You
think
know?
they refuse to see the link. And I think
Yeah.
obfuscation is by its own purpose. It's not new, right? It is not just that it happened and we are something new. Who does the colonial occupation go after? Like if you look at the history of indigenous children in both the United States and Canada, you are still finding mass graves of children in these re-education camps, right?
I know.
This is not
Yeah.
new. What did they do when slavery begins to take root in the United States? Who were the first victims? It was children, it was women. Children were sold, young boys and girls. And you see this, and even in places like South Asia, the idea of the child, yeah, I'm saying Emmett Till, yes,
Exactly. Yeah.
targeting the child, right? You are destroying the generation that is to come, to deny them and give them a kind of, I think also because violence also creates a sense of crippling trauma that gets passed on, right? So the idea that you do this to children is the most egregious, but also what somebody who is colonizing you, oppressing you, destroying you would do. It is very much that strategy. And the reason that public refusal or acknowledgement is not lack of knowledge. Because these very systems are complicit in reproducing this over and over
Exactly.
again. And thing that I really that I was so mad at, and I don't know why I was so mad at this, is like Melinda Gates did this interview post.
I know.
And she was
Oh
like,
my God.
those things. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to swear. I'm like, bitch, please.
Yeah,
Like,
I
you
know.
knew
It was
what this man was
so.
doing. You knew there were young children who were being abused. You had the power. You were at one point in time the world's wealthiest woman because of, even now, you're one of the world's most wealthiest people. You're telling me that you could
Yeah.
do, excuse my French, F all?
Yeah.
Again, what Melinda, and that interview is being applauded. What
I know.
Melinda Gates is doing is provide an moral alibi. Like, oh my God, I was so powerless
I know.
that all I could do was suffer in silence, and then finally I left him. You're
Yeah.
producing this moral alibi as if you are giving excuses for people who knew what was happening, who stood by it, and then went on with it. And I
Yeah. I
think
mean,
that's also part of the entire system
totally.
reproducing itself over and
Totally.
over and over again.
Totally. And as someone who I think I do pretty good at interviews, it's just amazing that an entire interview is structured on how did you feel at 6 a.m. and then how did you feel like
Horrible.
4 hours
Yeah.
later, and then how did you feel, and it's like, what, this is what
Gross.
you're going to ask? It was just, and of course it's viral and everyone loves a repentant, betrayed woman, as if she had no clue, she had no power. It's just it's really yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Sorry,
It
I
was
also
just
wanted to say
absolutely
that this
awful.
is,
Go.
and this is kind of the way in which, again, speaking about the role of women in, enabling colonialism, enabling atrocity.
I know.
I know this is not necessarily Ruby Hamad's concept, but she talks about the sort of maternal arm of colonialism, where you had the white woman going and
Yeah.
opening these like homes for children and talking about saving the children and what about the children. And, you have the number of the women who have propped up Epstein and who've propped up all of the men who continue to abuse and rape. And it's really quite something. And to just paint her as this kind of, for her to be able to come and be like, I just like all
it
of
was
you,
re- it was
you
really
know?
something.
Yeah.
And of course, like I was like, oh, should I keep watching this? And I saw the amount of views it had, and I was like, okay, I need to understand what this phenomena is. But Madhuri, I wanted to come back because we did say we should talk about ICE. I think one of the biggest issues for me is this idea that ICE is being covered well. There is significant outrage. Everyone's like, abolish ICE, get the hell out. But of course, you know, the focus is always on do do immigration control, do border regime, just do it nicely, do it sweeter, do it cuter, do it cuddly. Why is it that we cannot get liberal mainstream media to accept that it's the border that's the problem, it's the regime around migration that's the problem, it's president after president after president engaging in a system that makes it more and more violent, and
And by
and
the
this
way,
idea now, yeah, go on.
no, sorry, this is also even more buttressed by the democratic support for ICE now. Like it's just
Yeah.
where like everyone says it's easy to make Trump the boogeyman. It's always been easy to make him the boogeyman.
No.
Um, and nobody talks about how, for example, like Obama, who did have the power and the opportunity to disband ICE, defund them, shut them down, didn't do it. He
Yeah.
didn't do it. So you're
No.
right. It is successive, deporter in chief that he was. It's like successive president after president. Even now, it's like the Democrats are not, there's not so much outrage from them, really.
No,
There's not.
they want to train ICE better.
Yeah. It's like let's have more women in the military. It's exactly that. Like, let's
Yeah.
sort of civilize them a little bit.
Yeah, and what is killing
Yeah.
me is like, Democracy Now, God bless them, have been doing these wonderful videos of the testimonies that the victims who were detained by ICE, tortured by ICE, beaten by ICE have been doing. Nothing, not a peep, you know. Where is all this? Where is even like in journalism terms, the human interest element in these people's experiences? Yes, we did Liam Ramos, his picture was everywhere, everybody was significantly outraged. But really, what now? What happened? What were the conditions that led to that? What continually makes him and his father vulnerable? What's in place? So it might happen
Exactly.
again. It's upsetting. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, everybody is just watching Hind Rajab and, crying and feeling like the media, well, the media reporting on even Hind Rajab was so bad. One of our
I know.
culture editors, Kashif, has a really good reel up on Instagram where he talks about how the media has been. But this is what they do, right? Like, even in the face of a movie that's now Oscar nominated, the discourse is passive voice. Like, the title for the review of the Hind Rajab film was When Help Refuses to Come. That was the headline in the New York Times headline. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
why? Like, is the ambulance just refusing to move? Like, what do you think is happening? Like, why do you think the ambulance is not getting there?
I know.
So they still employ exactly this kind of reporting about Hind that makes Liam possible, that makes the children on Epstein Island possible.
Yeah.
I know. I
Yeah.
know.
But also, I think there is a very particular strategy that the media has now perfected, and it's manufacturing helplessness, right?
Mm.
You make the violence and the sheer power of ICE and all, whether it's ICE, the IDF, the NYPD, the British police, the Indian police, it doesn't matter. Anytime you report on the violence in such a spectacular way and stop it at that, what you're doing is you're telling people that you have all the right to bear witness to all the horrible things that's happening to you and your community, but you do not have the capacity to actually do anything. And the only thing we could do is vote between the guys who would actually do this violence and between the guys who would do this violence and also have, Beyonce, come and perform for you in the halftime show during the Democratic things, right?
Sure.
And the second thing I think is that I think what is interesting is that some of the best reporting out of Minneapolis is coming from individual journalists or journalists who've been part of
Absolutely.
movements or people who are just reporting. And I think we were all feeling so anxious, and I found this incredible thread in reporting from this reporter. I think they're called Margaret Killjoy. I think they had this incredible thread on Blue Sky, which really talked about how individuals are just turning up at the street corners. There is an 80-year-old couple who are the cold is too much for them to go stand in the cold, but they are now driving around young people whose families have been picked up. You are telling the stories in which actual community care makes a difference. The fact that entire libraries or a grocery store or something has been turned into a community space for that. And that thread, I was crying by the end of it simply because it shows us that we could still resist. And
Yeah.
they are out of Minneapolis. There are other creative strategies. And that is not being, I did not find this in the pages of New York Times.
Of course not.
I found it
Yeah.
somewhere else. And I think the role of journalism is also to allow people. I don't know if journalism can ever speak truth to power because power knows the truth, for me. But journalism can provide a roadmap to others to learn from. And that is not something that's being done. And I think those are things that we can still do. And I think journalism sometimes just manufactures that helplessness,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm just, I know you're saying this, and I know that thread you had sent it to us as well, and it was just so moving and beautiful. But it's like, what is this? To help people in Palestine or to help migrants, we have to do this individual fundraising. Okay, we have to put money here, put money there. Okay, and help out, and I'm happy to do it. Okay, for now, even for journalism, we have to do individual versions of like
Right.
find this person who's doing the right reporting. I mean, the complete fall of institutions at this
Right.
point is one of the most depressing things, I would say, coming out of the Palestine genocide. Okay, and of course it's older, it's been coming. I've been in academia, I've been tracking its fall for a long time.
Yeah.
Journalism, we've all been tracking what's wrong with it for a long time. Corporate structures, this, that, and the other, publishing, all these things. But at the end of the day, to be bereft of any institutional morality and is yeah, it's just excruciating. It's one of the saddest things of our time right now. Where do we go? Who do we rely on? And I understand that social media, citizen media, all this kind of stuff gives us all a sense of power, like we can go, we can do things, but not really. We do need institutions, we do need something.
I'm sorry, but these are perilous jobs. And with the number of journalists who Israel has killed in Palestine and the number of journalists and who now journalists are getting arrested in the US, like we know that this is a perilous job, and there needs to be a framework of protection for the people who are doing this kind of job. And let's also not forget that Renee Good was an observer, like these are people,
and Alex
Peretti as well. So these are people who have taken on that responsibility without any of that institutional backing that you have been speaking about. Even people with institutional backing are undertaking these perilous jobs, and it's just really unfair to expect people to do this kind of thing when they are in the face of such state violence, in the face of death, and in the face of where there can be video evidence of your murder that is still being manipulated, or like everybody's being gaslit about,
analyzed. My
Yeah.
favorite word is analysis here. We all know the death of analysis goes way back
Seriously.
in all media, in
Yep.
all legacy media, in mainstream media and liberal media. It's just a joke. And I think to come back even of course we can frame and think about these incidents, but then also we can come back to thinking in general, like, I had done an interview, I had done a podcast interview with Harsha Walia, who's an expert on all these things. And she said this thing, and it really struck me, even though I knew it. But when she said it, it struck me more. She said, even she's been in many progressive organizing circles, and she said it's very hard even to get progressives to come on board with the idea of abolishing borders or to think about migration outside the framework of, visas, passports, documents, things we take for granted, despite these being documents that were invented,
Right.
not very long ago. Yeah. So I don't know where the knot is, where the issue is, where this stuff is lodged. But I wish there is a way. People will say, I have friends who moved from here, who moved from there, and this, and yes, they're great, they're good people, and all this stuff. And I remember the Lin-Manuel Miranda for a long time would be like, immigrants get the job done, and it's like, you know what?
Yeah.
I don't want to be an immigrant who gets any job done. Allow me to be drunk loser and let me be, man.
Allow me to not aspire to work.
Exactly. What is this? And now in the Grammys, I felt like, the Grammys were like this amazing movement. Everyone was against ICE. Oh my goodness. Wow. Jokes about Donald Trump were made. Sweet, sweet Billie Eilish talking about stolen land. Of course, Washington Post has an op-ed saying this is not stolen land, Billie, or something like this. I mean, it's just ridiculous, the discourse, of course. But it was very sweet what she said, and she touched on some important stuff. And then Bad Bunny gave quite a moving speech, but framed in that speech was also the notion of being American.
Yes.
I'm American. And it's like, is it okay if we're not? Am I still human to you? Is it okay? So I think some of that stuff really upsets me because, and you know what? These are musicians. They should do what they do best. And now that they have to come on the podium and say all this stuff, I don't need them to give academic papers. Okay, so fine. I accept what it is. But it's still like patriotism, statism, nationalism, it's just so lodged, and it's painful really to see. And of course, the Grammy Awards, as we all sent irritated texts, Palestine, forgotten. I remember the last 2 years, we were tracking every award show. Here's Mark Ruffalo, he wore a pin. Here's Javier Bardem, he said this. Here's this one, he said that. Whatever pittance we could get, we could hold on to. And now, this time, zero, absolute zero. It's just sad.
I think, the reason why empires are so powerful is because it also colonizes the mind of those who are against it.
Oh, of course.
I think I had this conversation with both of you recently. I was in this gathering that happened outside of the US, and there were a lot of people who came. And then I realized that in those meetings, even if you're brown, you're black, you're marginalized, when Americans walk into those rooms with all of our identities, we walk in as Americans.
Mm-hmm.
A black American is still an American. A brown American is an American. And I could see in real time how our hegemony affects the conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the world is like, what are you guys going on about? Like the idea that Americans, even the most progressive, the most radical, all of us who want to have that solidarity, because we've been in the empire's belly for too long, when we walk into those rooms, we walk in with the same hegemony. It's learned, it's inbred, and I think we have to. There's a long process of unlearning. But even with the Grammys, I'm like, yes, I'm happy. Billy.
Me, on the other hand, I don't walk in with any hegemony, Suchitra. I'm sorry.
Really, George is like.
But I mean, I do want to say that there is a lot of. It's hard to unlearn these kinds of concepts. It's really not easy. There is a really sort of intrinsic biological evolutionary tie we all possess to the land, whether we come from like villages or pastoral communities or whatever it is, and that kind of feeling that is so deep within us about tribe and clan, and those are the feelings that have been evolutionarily responsible for us surviving, and they are the ones that get weaponized by empire, right? Like, here's now this thing that I will take and weaponize into loyalty for me, for the country, like whatever. um, and a lot of post-colonial struggles are very nationalist struggles, and so, for a lot of us who come from like young post-colonial nations, it's very hard to deconstruct, to decouple that idea of nationalism, and patriotism, as it is then rebranded, to think about a post-border society, because so much of our survival was framed on that idea of like, this is our land, our border, give it back, my country, me, I will. So it's tough, and it's not even something that I feel, is like, oh, people don't have an imagination or whatever, because even these concepts of land and borders are so modern, really. But I think that there is no structural support provided for people to engage in the difficult work of unlearning these kinds of things. Even that is your responsibility. Everything is your responsibility. You fight against the state. You figure out how to decouple these ideas in your head. Like, you do everything. Like, it's just, there is no structural support. Everything falls to the individual.
Yeah.
Like, it's neoliberalism at its max. You do it,
Mm.
Yeah, so I was just saying, I find it, I wish there was a way to provide more structural support to enable these ideas, abolition in general, whatever kind of abolition you talk about, to become concepts that people start to grapple with from a really, really young age, or just understand it,
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, yeah, and I like what Transition Magazine here is saying. I don't know who's logged in from there. Thank you for coming. Deconstructing the idea of difference, a task for the ages. How somebody's different versus never looking for human similarities, always looking for, yeah, differences. And it's just, it's painful, and it really connects with what you're saying too, Madhuri. But yeah, so I feel like, overall, I think the media gaslight is worse than ever, because a lot of it is about saying that the media is doing better than ever. It's like it's reporting more, it's telling us more. Here's this piece from the Epstein files, here's that. And it's the strangest things coming out, like, the thing from Mecca or whatever that somebody shipped to him. It's like, what does this even mean? Well, who, what? And also, like, this idea of the nitty gritty sometimes about protesters when they engage with ICE, and when you see a sort of mainstream coverage of it, there is so much kind of two-sidism, both sidism. And it's sort of like, why? Just analyze the situation. There is an aggressor here. We know who's the aggressor. And there is a constant allergy to the notion of protest itself. And we've seen that over and over again. Nobody wants to engage really with what somebody's protesting, what they want. It's always protester equal to unruly, equal to riot, equal to bad.
Can I drop something in here that I haven't found the right place to introduce, but it has confounded me and it has kind of upset me. I'm sorry to make this so hyper local, but thinking about kids and the reporting of violence against kids, young Jabez Chakrabarti was shot by the NYPD 5 times. They called in Queens, and his family had asked for an ambulance and medical assistance, and they came in, and he had a knife, and the police shot him. And Zoran Mamdani tweeted that it was, he got a lot of backlash for this, but an incident of officer involved shooting, and then he goes on to say, oh no, these are first responders, blah blah blah. And I'm really wondering, what will it take to dismantle the way that we talk about these power structures, if even the people that we elect, and I understand that he's in a difficult position, blah blah, like, even when these people, it feels like a betrayal on all fronts, right? Because even Bamdani is saying officer related shooting, and is softening the language, and is doing, no better than the media. So where do we really start to, how do we start to change this?
I don't know. The Mamdani thing is just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just never want to say anything bad about him. And then it's like, hello,
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I think we all have a role to play in this. We're all part of a much smaller We are small puzzles, pieces of a puzzle in a much larger thing. And I think our job is not, I mean, I'm happy he is the mayor.
Of course.
I'm happy he won. But end of the day, my job is also to not put anyone in a pedestal, especially politicians.
Yes.
Right.
No.
He auditioned for this role. He auditioned for a role and he got it. And he got it in a way that was phenomenal. The strategy was amazing. But I am going to hold him accountable, just I would hold an Eric Adams accountable. And I think that's so important.
Yeah.
Second, and I know we talked about Billie Eilish, but I'll tell you something. Billie Eilish saying there is no one illegal on stolen land is something kids in New York City schools are now discussing, right? That idea, I mean, I know it is not enough, but the idea that she said it
Right.
from
Lovely.
that place, in that podium, means
Mhm.
that yesterday I had a conversation with my, with my child. And she was like, they were saying this, kids were all talking about this. And then I was like, oh, okay, what happened? And she's like, and I told them that, this is like, there's something called settler colonialism. And I was just like, what? You were not
Yeah.
even 10. And then I realized that she, along with a generation of young people, have
Yeah.
accessed. I didn't know what settler colonialism was till I was in my 20s.
Hmm.
They now have access to that language. And that is a success. And I don't think we appreciate those successes. And I think when they grow up, that politics and those values will affect how we vote. And I think those are important victories that we should hold on to. And we keep doing this, right? I think the thing with right is that they are so confident of their values and ideas.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there is this one email in the Epstein file where someone said, I think, is it Epstein or someone else explained to Epstein of how the elite need not worry about social movements because they have figured out a way to temper the population. I just read it before we came on this and I was like, what? He is literally breaking down Marxist theory, which the left has been saying for years, what we've known for
Yeah.
years, which is literally like, look, the elite need not worry because the population has been tamed. They've been tamed in this way, and they are just happy with the goods. And I'm just like, we've
Yeah.
given them the language of how to
Amazing.
tame us. And I was just like, what? I have to go back and see. I found it literally like minutes before I came in. I'm just like,
Yeah.
all I'm saying is that we're all making a great difference.
No. I mean, no, I'm with you on the popular shifts in the discourse are huge. Of course they are. And that's why we agreed not to go on forever, though we could. So I wanted to bring us back to the central question, which is Palestine, right?
Yes.
And the popular shift in Palestine is huge. And Voice of Hind Rajab is an extraordinary film, And as I keep saying, it is a film that's a sonic sound intervention that allows us to actually re-engage with Palestine without having to think about mangled bodies and those horrific images that are extremely scary, but have also created a desensitizing, a numbing type of thing. So the film is brilliant, and what sucks, of course, is that even the tiniest bit of recognition for it feels just so huge, at this point. And even when they're writing about why help never came, it just rained hard, it's like magical things occurred. Even when they're writing about it like that, just the fact that there is even a review or something, I know I hate it that I have to be grateful for it, but it does point to there is an imperative. Even the liberal mainstream media, there is some imperative. I mean, they try to resist it so much. Like I said, the Washington Post has an op-ed on how Billie Eilish is wrong to use the term stolen land. And this is crazy.
Who wrote it?
I don't know. I
One of
forgot. It's
Bezos'
like,
installees, I guess.
no, I don't
Yeah.
know exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so I feel like, yes, the shifted discourse is acute and it's real. It's just not tidal. It's not a tidal wave yet. It's still little, and let's hope it gets there. And let's talk a little bit about what's happening in Palestine. what's in the news, what's not being reported. As I like to make very, very sad joke, we're so bored of peace. It's just boring. Let's keep up with the war. So there's the board of peace stuff, which is egregious, and now it's traveled into like peace plans for Sudan, which is egregious. And just the way Israel is going to bring peace to Palestine, the United Arab Emirates will be bringing peace to Sudan, thanks to Trump, right? And this is the structure of it. And we're getting nothing. We're getting nothing. We're getting nothing. And children are dying every day.
Yeah.
There are people stuck on the Rafah crossing who have life who require drugs that will save their lives, and they're not being allowed to cross. And it's just it's devastating. And there's nothing. There's just the same old people, who are reporting on this tirelessly. The same people, Democracy Now!, Middle East Eye, Al Jazeera, Zeteo, Dropsite, whatever, Novara, it's just a few. And it's just so depressing.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's important to know that now you're noticing that a lot of the Palestinian writers from Gaza who were sustaining themselves by writing for English language media is completely gone. We have writers who write for letters for us from Palestine. Every day we get things saying, can we write? Can we write? And we always say yes, and we commission it. But it's also that it's again this sense of commercialization of pain, is that even those outlets that were publishing Palestinian writers from Gaza now don't, because it's disappearing. And I think another thing that happened with Palestine is the Human Rights Watch report. Omar Shakir is now,
Oh yes.
he's resigned. But it's simple. Like, all that it says is that Israel is refusing the Palestinian right to return.
And this is not even a new like, what is this? This is not even new.
And the only difference is that they say this is a crime against humanity. And this line of argument has been used by Human Rights Watch before.
Exactly.
And and I was just like, this is the most vanilla of reports. And then you're going to censor this? Like, what are you doing? Like, it's... I don't know. It's just this moment of... No, it's just like... And every single day of the ceasefire, Israel has killed at least 2 or 3 Palestinians. And the fact that we think the death of 2 or 3 Palestinians a day is not something that...
Thank God it's over, just a couple,
But also, like, has everybody forgotten about the famine and the starvation and like all
Still
the people
going
that
on.
were... That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, no, it's, everyone is like, oh, well, like, I guess it's not missiles, but yes, kids are continuing to die. And I remember there was that inflection point when the
airstrikes are also going on. So let's not lie.
That's true too. Yeah, exactly. But, I think I'm just going to do a quick time check here, which is that we're 2 minutes to either 7 or 1 or 11:30, wherever in the world you are, around that time. So I think we should wrap up. But maybe some final thoughts across the board, whatever final synthesis you can bring yourself to make.
We should do this every week. I think this live is amazing. We have like a lot of people listening in, and then we were like, one person will turn up. No, I mean, I think more than that.
I was volunteering my son.
I was volunteering my husband.
I have no one to volunteer. I'm sorry. No, I think.
Oh yeah, it's good.
I think I keep going back and forth on this, but I think it's important for us to continue doing this. And I think it's important for us to continue reporting, writing, thinking. It is a deeply ungrateful thing to do, but we're not doing this for gratefulness, right? I think this, as I said, we all have a role to play. And for me, I think the most powerful thing is the one that Madhuri said, is that we have to make that link between Liam and Hind Rajab and what's happening, because the reason Hind Rajab happened is because some other kid was deported and killed under the Obama administration, because that was because of something else. And I think that link, for me, I think that is something that I really wish. And I know there are a lot of journalists and reporters and magazines who have tuned in. And I think if that is something, those are the connections that we can consistently keep making in our reporting. I think that is my 2 cents.
Yeah. And, I'm the last person on earth who can give kind of therapy style advice. But for me, it's like the media, the media gaslighting is so acute. Like, how does one uh, get past it? How does one kind of make their way through this morass? You know, and I think one thing is to kind of engage with like-mindedness. People will always say, that's crazy, you should be reading across the board, you should read right wing, you should read this, and you should do that. And I absolutely disagree. I think we have to try to keep our sanity and not engage with this idea of like, learn the enemy and go see what they're saying. I mean, this is super problematic. I mean, yeah, we can peruse and figure out what the other side is up to, but I really don't. I think it's time to stop engaging with both sidism. I think it's time to be very openly into like-minded solidarities, and to surround yourself with that. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. Madhuri, you want to wrap up for us?
Yeah, my final wrap up is I want to say, solidarity to all the journalists who have been laid off at the Washington Post. Solidarity to journalists everywhere who've lost their jobs, small newspapers that have shuttered. I feel really terrible about it. The work is valuable. Somebody asked where we get our information. As Bhakti said at the beginning, it's Middle East Eye, Al Jazeera, Dropsite,
Zateo,
Zateo. Am I forgetting?
Novara.
Yes, exactly. And really, again, social media, it's a cesspool, but you will find your journalists who are consistently speaking out without institutional backing, without support. Please go find them, support them. And I will, reiterate my point, which is there is a direct through line between Epstein Island, Palestine, and ICE detention centers. And we will continue time and again to unpack that link because the media will not do it. And I think I will also reemphasize Bhakti's point, which is surround yourself with like-minded people or people who will be able to just kind of just give you a sanity check, because the media is not going to do that for you. And trust your eyes, trust what you see, trust how you feel, and just divest from popular mainstream media. Like, just please
Absolutely,
divest.
best.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you won't miss it. You won't miss it.
Yeah.
You think you're subscribing to New York Times because of the food and the travel. It's like, that stuff is racist too. It's a problem too. So I absolutely with you. And let's try to come back again next week. I don't know which day. We'll announce it. We'll figure it out. I think
Maybe we should
despite
just take a
some
poll. We
sound
have
issues,
enough.
I think we did okay.
Yeah, I think maybe we should just take a poll now. We are live. We have a good number of audiences joining us. Is this time a good time for everyone, or should we do it midweek? Is there something that people want to like chime in? Like, we have a
The
couple more.
police are coming for you right now.
That's literally the national bird of New York or something. I was amazed we did not hear a single siren throughout this live stream.
Yeah.
No officer involved sounds.
Yeah, I think I can put out a poll later and we'll
Yeah,
figure out
let's do that.
and stuff like that. Thanks both, and it's great to get the band back together. As I said,
Yeah, it is lovely to be back.
this is
It's a good time. So we have a
Thank
bunch
you,
of people
everyone,
saying
for
that.
joining us.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
so
Thank you
so
for your
much.
support.
This is a good time. People are saying, okay, that's pretty good.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
make
great.
it happen.
All right.
Bye everyone.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Take care.